Okay guys, welcome to today's webinar. My name's Thomas Fraser-Bacon. Today I'll be showing you how to use the My Signage Portal content management system and also how to demonstrate it to your customers. You can see there's some contact information on screen at the moment, my support email address and a phone number. These can be contacted anytime if you need any technical support or assistance or even guidance, so feel free. Okay, so first thing, guys, is obviously to make sure that your speakers or headphones are turned up and you can hear me okay now. If you can't, I'll just allow a couple of minutes just for people to adjust their volumes. You should be able to hear me quite clearly. If you can't, obviously adjust accordingly now. Just give everyone a couple of minutes just to get that sorted. Okay, I can't see anybody on the chat with any problems. So I'll get started now on the agenda. So today's webinar should last around an hour, give or take, depending on how many questions are asked. If you do have any questions along the way, feel free to type them into the chat box on the right-hand side. I may address them as you ask them, or I may wait till the end in the questions and answers section. Today's webinar will also be available to download afterwards on available on YouTube as well. So don't worry if anything's missed or if you need anything repeating, it will be available to watch afterwards. So just to go through the agenda, so we'll go through a quick system overview, just to sort of explain where the system stands on the market. Then I'll be going through the My Signage Portal website, so the support section, the features section, and then I'll spend a little bit of time going through the actual software itself. Like I say, today's webinar will be mainly focused on how to actually present the software to your customers, but obviously along the way I will be showing you how to use the software itself. And then you can see just at the end there, the questions and answers section at the end. So as I said, if you've got any questions along the way, feel free to type them in the questions and answers box. There may be a video tutorial or a FAQ section that I can point you in the direction of, or I may be able to go through specific questions and answers, like I say, towards the end. Okay, so first thing, system overview. So as most of you are aware, our solution is an all-in-one solution. So in a typical scenario, you'd have a screen from one manufacturer, a media player from another manufacturer, and then a piece of software from a software provider, and then they would be packaged together. Very expensive, harder to maintain, harder to support, harder to install. With our solution, everything comes from one source. So you've got your hardware, so the commercial grade screen and media player built in, the software itself, all from Allsee. So it's a lot easier to install because obviously there's only one unit rather than two separate pieces of hardware and a third-party software, and it's a lot easier to support and maintain as well. And typically it is a lot more cost-effective. We haven't designed our My Signage Portal CMS software to be the most groundbreaking advanced CMS software on the market. We've designed it to provide an all-in-one solution. So there may be other software on the market that has more features and has features that our software doesn't have, but it's going to be considerably more expensive and a lot more complicated to use. And typically, a lot of software companies charge for support and training. Our technical support is completely free lifetime technical support on all our products. And again, as many of you are aware, our solution is available on a wide range of screens. So you've got tablet style screens or basic looking screens, indoor, outdoor, a range of sizes from 10-inch to 86-inch and even bigger with video walls. A range of brightnesses, so 450 candela to 2500 candela, touch and non-touch, and media players. I'm not going to be focusing today on the touch side of things. We may run a separate webinar for that if there's enough interest. Again, at any point, feel free to email the support at allsee-tech.com email address if you've got any other suggestions for future webinars or any kind of specific training on that side of things. Feel free to email that email address. Okay, so guys, I'm going to start the actual screen sharing part now, so just bear with me. Okay, so the first thing obviously you'll need to do is go to mysignageportal.com. The very first thing I always say when I'm demonstrating the software is that obviously it's cloud-based. A lot of systems you have to have like a dedicated server or a dedicated PC, or it can only be a locally run network. Obviously, with our system, as long as you can get online, you can update your screens from anywhere in the world. That's important to note. The mysignageportal.com platform is as unbranded as it can be, really. We have lots of resellers selling the My Signage Portal solution as their own solution, which is absolutely fine. There aren't any links back to Allsee from the mysignageportal.com website, so feel free to sell it as your own solution. First thing I'm going to cover is the features section. So this is the only sort of commercial part, if you like, on the whole website. This just gives you an overview of all the main features of the system. So, you know, if you wanted to sort of skip a demo, if you like, if your customer just wanted to know what the software can do, you can point them in the direction of this page, and they can give gives them a rough overview of all the main features of the software, really. So that's quite handy. In the support section, this is a really handy section, obviously for support, but it's also a really good sales tool. I'll explain in just a second. So you've got your downloads here. That's with all just your user manuals. You've got training. So if anybody wants to request any training or support, that sends an email straight through to us. We will then contact you guys if it's one of your customers, and then see how you want to proceed from there. But if anyone wants to request training or free technical support, they can do so from here. There's also an FAQ section. As I said earlier, some of the questions that get asked today, I may be pointing you in the direction of one of these FAQs. They tend to be sort of, you know, step 1, step 2, and laid out quite easily with screenshots. I'll give you an example here. So where to click, you know, what to type in, so forth. So they are quite straightforward. And then as well as that, we've got a video tutorial section. So the video tutorial section are obviously a great tutorial tool. If you were to watch all of these videos, it's essentially a more extended version of what we'll be covering today. What we'll be covering today is obviously, you know, an overview. This goes into a little bit more detail. You could probably watch all the videos in just over an hour, but you probably never need to watch all of them. But they're a great tool because obviously this way, you know, because we've designed our software so user-friendly and easy to use, typically customers don't need formal training. They can sort of train themselves. It's very, very straightforward. Vast majority of users will only ever watch the getting started video. If all you want to do is send images or videos, you know, from your PC to the screen, all you need to do is watch this video and follow it along. It lasts just over a minute, and it shows you how to publish content from your PC to the screen. It even shows you how to log in as well. So the vast majority of users, that's all they'll actually need. There are lots of other video tutorials depending on specifically what you want to do, but most people will only need this. And this rapid function will be the first thing that I actually demonstrate when I log in just a second. Okay, so if I go to login, I'm going to put my login information into here. If any of you guys don't have a login, and you'd like to request one, like I say, if you just email support@allsee-tech.com, we can set up a demo login for you. That's not a problem. If you want us to set up demo logins for any of your customers underneath your account, we can do that as well. So that's not a problem. Just send an email over and we can get that set up. So once you put your username and password in, click login. As I said just now, the very first thing I always show is the rapid publishing. Now, in a real life scenario, if you're going to demonstrate the software to your customers, you'd probably take a demonstration screen with you. So obviously the first thing you need to do is set the screen up and get the screen connected. What I tend to do if I'm doing an offsite demo is get the screen connected to your mobile phone's hotspot. That way you know there's no restrictions in place. If you connect it to the customer's network and they've got some strange restriction that prevents you from doing your demo, it may end up making obviously the screen look bad when it's nothing to do with the screen. If you need any sort of tips or tricks like that, more specific, again, just send an email to the support email address. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Rapid. The reason I always start with the Rapid Publishing is because it gets the basic principle of the system across. to customers. So most people, once you've showed them the rapid publishing, everything else is a bonus really, unless they want a really in-depth demonstration. So if I click on rapid, you can see there's sort of step 1, step 2, step 3, and it even gives you on-screen tips. So the first thing you need to do is select the orientation of your screen that you're publishing to, then click next. The next step is to upload your media. Now, uploading your media is very simple and straightforward. You click on the upload button, click add file, and then it's a case of, you know, it's the same as when you attach, you know, an image to an email. You find where your media files are, select those, click open, and then click upload. They will then upload to your account, okay, and then they're here. Incidentally, I always use images when I'm doing demonstrations rather than videos, just because they're much quicker to upload and much quicker to download on the screen when you publish them. Next, if you just drag and drop those into the bottom window here, where you can drag and drop directly into the preview window here, and then click save. I will go into a little bit more detail on everything in just a minute when I go through everything again. I'm just showing you the rapid publishing this time round. Next, the final step is this is your publish screen, and then all you have to do is tick the checkbox for the screen you want to publish to, set the release strategy to overwrite player schedule, and click OK. And that's it. Now, obviously, when you're doing that demonstration with your customer, a few seconds after that, when you turn your head to face the screen, you'll see that the screen will download it and start displaying the new content straight away. So that's a really good way to start any demonstration, because, like I say, it gets it through to the customer that, okay, anybody can use this. You know, it shows them how easy it is to use. They understand the principle of, okay, I've uploaded my content to the cloud. Okay, now I'm publishing from the cloud to my screen, done. So it gets the basic principle across. What I'm going to do now, guys, is go through each of the sort of top menu items just to explain those in a little bit more detail. So if I click on media, here you've got your images. Now you can see I've got 2 images that I've just uploaded there. One thing I always say at this point as well is that you've got a completely unlimited amount of storage space. Each system is, you know, works in a different way. At some platforms, they charge you extra for additional storage space. With our system, it's completely unlimited. The only restriction is a single file can't be bigger than 1 gigabyte. If you ever encounter that situation, again, just let us know and we can help you, you know, convert the video and not lose any quality. Typically, if a video file is 1 gigabyte and it's HD, it might be up to 2 hours long. So if that's the case, you know, there might be something wrong, or, you know, like I say, if you ever encounter any situations like that, just let us know. So if you're uploading any images, you can do it from here, directly to here, in exactly the same way. Same for videos. So if you're uploading any videos, you can do it from here. In the media section is also where you'd set up your RSS feeds. So essentially, you just paste the URL for the RSS feed into there, give it a name, tell it how you want it to show here, and then click OK. And then later on is where you sort of drag and drop it into a scrolling text zone. I'll show you that in just a second. Media groups, that's for mainly for advertising companies. So if they've got any, if they want to separate their clients' content into different folders, they can do. So if you're a company who manages your customers' content for them, that might be a handy tool to use as well. It's essentially just folders for your media. Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and PDF. This is a great tool. Wherever possible, we recommend using media formats. So for images, JPEG; for videos, MP4 or AVI. But if your customer's got Word, PowerPoint, Excel, or PDF documents that they can't convert to media formats, they can just upload them directly from here. The software itself will then sort of flatten each page to a separate image anyway, but it's a great tool, especially for things like internal communications. If someone's got a PowerPoint presentation, you know, or if someone's got an Excel document that has sales figures on that they want to incorporate, you know, into their internal communication screens, obviously that's a great tool. APK just there, that refers to just specifically touch playlists, so you can incorporate third-party Android apps into touch playlists. But like I say, I won't be going into too much detail on the touch side of things today. Okay, so just going back to the workflow. So if you imagine you've uploaded your media, the next step is to create a template. So if I go to template, now again, if you're just displaying a single image or video, full screen, you can completely skip this step. If you do have different zones, media zones, you click on user template and then new. Give your template a name and select the resolution. So whether it's horizontal or vertical, landscape or portrait, then click OK. Then you can see there's all these different tools on the left-hand side here. So I'll just go through these individually. So you've got background, so you can have a background image, or you can have a solid color. So if I just select no as an image and then click on it again, you'll see a little color box pop up here. I can then select the color. So if you've got a corporate color, you can enter a hex code just there, and it'll be the official corporate color then. And then you've got video. Now you can only have one video zone, and you can only have one scrolling text zone. And these are intentional limitations, because if you can imagine, if you've got a scrolling text along the bottom and a scrolling text along the top, typically neither one of them are going to get read. Same with videos. If you've got two videos playing on the same screen, it can be very confusing and not a very targeted messaging, if you like. In saying that, if you did want to overload the screen, like I say, going back to the example of having the screens for internal communication, if you've got lots of information you want to display on one screen, you still can sort of have a lot of different zones. So you can just keep adding the image zones. You can have up to 4 image zones if you need to. So the next one's text. Like I say, that's scrolling text. Now that can go on top of your different zones if you like. If you need to be really accurate with laying out your different zones, you can sort of put the pixel sizes in here. Otherwise, for demonstration purposes, you can just drag and drop. Then you've got logo. So if you've got a logo, especially a PNG file with a transparent background that you want to have over the top of all your zones, you can insert that there. Date and time, they're fairly self-explanatory. Weather, now at the moment this is only a UK feature, so any of our overseas customers who are listening, this feature isn't currently available for you guys, but we are currently working on that. So this is like your weather widget, so you can have different styles. So this is like a 3-day forecast. You can just choose the style that you want. Again, you can change the font color, the font size, and so forth. Next, you've got transparent image. Now, this is a relatively new feature. Basically, if you think of the template in different layers, so you've got your background color or image, and then you've got your media zones on top of that, and then you've got your scrolling text zone on top of that, and also if you want to have your weather widget just there, you can have that as well. And then on top of everything, you can have a transparent image zone, which essentially acts as a mask. So if you wanted to have a frame around all these different zones, if you wanted to have, like, say, a wooden effect frame between these different zones on top of it all, you can add a transparent image as well. PIP stands for picture in picture. To use this feature, you need to use one of our specific media players with the live input. If you wanted to display any kind of HDMI or VGA signal, you can do that, which would then just display as part of your layout. So if you had like a set-top box, a Sky set-top box, or security camera, or like I say, anything that can be outputted as a VGA or HDMI signal, even if it was a PC, you can display that input just there. Web page. Now, the most obvious use for these is things like social media feeds, but if you've got anything specific in mind that one of our normal features can't do, for example, like a countdown clock or something along those lines, you can create that as a web page and then point the web zone to that web page, and obviously it gets incorporated as part of the design. And then the final zone there is static text. So if you've got any small areas of text that need to be editable, so for example, prices on a menu board, you can just design the artwork without the prices, add that as a background image, and then put the static text zones where the prices go. That way, each sort of franchisee of a franchise, for example, can go in and add their own prices, and it just makes it a lot easier to edit than sort of editing the artwork itself. And once you've finished putting together your different zones, the next step is to create a playlist. So I've just clicked Save and Use. Now that's going to automatically take me to the playlist page, so that I can populate all the different zones inside my template. Because I've added quite a lot of zones and there's quite a lot going on with this template, it can take a minute or so to sort of get to the next step. You can also, if you wanted to click Save and then go into the playlist section, you can. But yeah, it's done it now. Now, this obviously looks very familiar when we were doing the rapid publishing, so it's the same in terms of creating your playlist. So obviously you've got your different media here, so you've got image, video, RSS, and so forth. And then again, it's just a case of dragging and dropping. So if I wanted to, populate this zone, for example, I can click on it there. It highlights a tab at the bottom, and again, I can drag and drop into the tab at the bottom, or I can drag and drop directly into the little preview window. So in terms of populating your different zones, really straightforward. With your images, if you want to edit the duration time or transition effect, you can right click, go to edit, then it will give you the opportunity to change the duration time and choose from one of the many transition effects. Your web zone, again, if you just click the little green add button there, paste your URL in there for the web page you want to point it to. And if you need to set multiple web pages for the same web zone, you can set a duration. So for example, if you wanted your Facebook page to appear for 5 minutes, then your Twitter page to appear for 5 minutes, you can set multiple web pages in there. The scrolling text, so you can have a manually inputted message there, or you can use one of the RSS feeds that we set up at the start, and drag and drop that into there. We'll populate that with the RSS feed. With your scrolling text, you can change the font color, the background color, the speed, the direction, the transparency of the background, and so forth. So it's quite customizable in that respect. I would always recommend renaming playlists, but if you're doing it, as a demonstration, you probably don't need to do that. You can skip that. So you just need to click Save. And once that's finished saving, the final step is to publish. Now, this time around, I'll be going into a little bit more detail on scheduling. So that's quite a common question. A lot of customers ask, how do you schedule certain things to display at certain times. I'll show you how easy it is, and regardless of what the scheduling requirements are, the system can meet those requirements. Okay, so that's just a message saying it's still saving, but even though it's been saved, you still need to publish essentially. So if I click OK from that and then click Publish, that then takes me back to the publishing screen. Now, at the top here, you'll see there's different organizations. Now, each of you guys will have your own organization, and then underneath will be your customers' organizations. And then if they've got customers, they can have sub-organizations. This tree at the top here can be as complicated or as simple as it needs to be, basically. If you wanted to publish to all the screens within a particular organization, you can just tick the checkbox there, and it will publish to all those screens. If you wanted to publish to individual screens, you can tick the checkboxes for those individual screens. And the screens can be renamed however you want them to be. So in terms of organizing and grouping your screens, there's a few different ways of doing that. So I'm going to tick the checkbox for the screen that I published to earlier. Now, the playlist that I published earlier to this screen, when I was using the rapid publishing feature, I published that as a default playlist, obviously by default. Now, let's say the playlist that I'm publishing here, I want that to play at a particular time and date. So if I change default to weekly, so every Tuesday, every Wednesday between 1:25 and 2:25, and then change the release strategy to additional schedule. And then if I click add, now if I were to click OK, it would mean that the default playlist that I published earlier will play all the time apart from Tuesdays and Wednesdays between 1:25 and 2:25, and it will play this playlist, and then at 26 minutes past 2, it'll go back to the original default playlist. If I change the play mode to daily, I can set a period. So let's say I want it to display all weekend. So starting on Saturday, finishing on Sunday, and if I tick the checkbox for 24 hours just there, and then click add, that's it. Now you can continue to add these. So let's say I wanted to display for the next few weekends. I can just set up another schedule there. Starting on Saturday, finishing on Sunday, all day, click add. You can set up as many of those as you like in one go. And you can also publish multiple playlists to the same screen at the same time. So if I add that one, so I've got two playlists there, and if I was to click OK, it will play the default content apart from these periods where it'll play these two playlists, then it'll go back to the default content. So the scheduling is quite straightforward as well. So in terms of you actually putting your content together and scheduling it, that's about as complicated as it gets. I will go through a few other features just now as well. So if you just bear with me 1 second. Okay. So what I normally show after I've done that is the, if I go to status, you can see which screens are online, which screens are offline, and so forth. So if a screen's offline and it's been offline for say 20 minutes, for example, it's probably just dropped off the Wi-Fi. If a screen's offline and it's been offline for 3 weeks, it could be that it's been turned off. It could be that the Wi-Fi password's changed. It could be that someone's changed some of the settings on the screen. Really, the only thing we can be sure of, if a screen appears as offline, it just means that we can't control it and we can't publish to it. If you ever get into that situation, you don't need to try and troubleshoot it, guys. You can just pass the technical support through to us and we can contact the customer on your behalf and get the situation resolved. So all these screens here that are playing, you can actually set remote commands to, because it's an all-in-one solution. As long as the screen is online, you can essentially do most things you can do standing next to the screen with the remote, you can do through the portal. So if I right-click on this screen here and send the command to stop, that screen's then going to stop playing its content. It's the same as me going up to the screen and pressing stop. So there, it's changed the status to stop. Again, that's quite a powerful demonstration when you are showing your customers, because they can see, you know, they've got complete remote control over the software. Another really nice feature as well is the screenshot command. So that, let's take this typical scenario, a screen saying stop, but a customer doesn't know why. So you can right click on that, take a screenshot. Now the screenshot does take a few minutes to go through because it has to send the command to the screen to take the screenshot. The internal Android system then has to obviously take that screenshot and then send it back through to the server. So it can take a few minutes to come through, but it is a really handy tool, and again, quite a powerful demonstration when you're showing your customers. So I can see now exactly what's displaying on that screen, and it could have an error message here, for example, that might be really useful to find out why the screen's not playing its content. So that's a nice tool as well. You don't necessarily have to show each command when you're doing the demonstration, but if you just mention to your customer, that you can play, stop, reboot, turn off, turn on, change the volume, format the internal memory, and even in the other menu, the player menu, you've still got lots of other options as well. So if I go to edit, again, like I say, you can change the name of the screen, change the on-off times, even set a download period so it only tries to download at a particular time and date to save on bandwidth, change the brightness, change the volume, schedule the volume to change at different times of the day. It really does give you a lot of sort of control, remote control over the screens. So if I go to logs now, you've got user operations and screen log. So these are quite handy as well. So each action that each user takes is recorded. So everything that I've been showing you guys here today has been recorded here. What time it happened, the IP address that that it happened on, and the same for the player monitoring. So every time the screen communicates with the server, a record is kept. So every time you start downloading a new piece of media, every time it finishes downloading a new piece of media, and something else to note there as well is if you publish the next 6 months worth of content to your screen, and you've checked on the player logs and made sure it's all finished downloading, assuming that content doesn't have like a live web page or an RSS feed, that content will still continue to play the correctly scheduled content for the next 6 months. Even if you've got things to change on different dates, it'll just work from the internal clock. again, a lot of other systems, they stream all of their content, which obviously uses a lot of data, a lot of bandwidth, but obviously it also requires a consistent, stable internet connection. And from experience, there aren't many end users with consistent and stable internet connection. So our system downloads everything, stores it locally, and just runs locally. And it is constantly communicating with the server to see if there's anything new to download. But typically, it doesn't need that consistent internet connection. So, just going back to status, if a screen is going offline, even if it goes offline a few times a day, that shouldn't be a problem, unless, like I say, unless they're displaying like a live web page. Here in the settings option, you've got organizations, users, and roles. So, as I was saying earlier, typically you guys will have the names of your customers here, and then their customers underneath, and so forth. Here's where you actually set up new organizations. So we'll do one now, just as a demonstration. So if you tick the top level directory, then click New. I'll give it a name, Webinar Test, and then click OK. It'll then appear in my list. So that's how easy it is to set up an organization, very straightforward. And if you wanted to create a user account and go through the whole process, that's not a problem either. Before you create a user, if you want the customer to have a specific role, you can set up a different role. So essentially, a role just means what access of the top menu items they've got. So, for example, if you wanted to set up a user account where all that user can do is upload images, you just tick the checkbox for upload image, call it upload image, and then assign that user that role. If you want to give your customer all permissions, you can do that as well. But you don't have to create a new role each time. The same role can be used multiple times. So if I go to user, then go to new, give it a username, password, and then if I click on the organization field just here, then click Webinar Test, and click OK, and then finally select the role, OK, and change the player type to Android, and then click OK. And that's how easy it is to set up a user. And then if you are going through the full process and you want to move a player over into their organization, so you've got the screen we were using earlier, if I right click on that and go to edit, then click on the organization just here, webinar test, okay. Okay. So if you ever sort of, place orders for new screens and you want to move, create an account for your customer and move them over, that's how easy it is really. So in terms of the actual software, that's covered most things. There's just one final thing I just want to mention, which is the system playlists. This is a relatively new feature that we're continuing to expand upon all the time. Initially it was just menu boards, but we've added a few more sectors here, and again we will continue to add more sectors. This basically just gives you a list of pre-designed playlists, basically, for you to download and edit yourself. Again, it's a great sales tool because for a lot of customers, the content creation side of things is the scariest part. If you can sort of give them that helping hand to say, okay, we've got lots of pre-designed content already there, that can be a big help for a lot of users, especially like end users such as fast food restaurants and so forth. Because they don't have any resources necessarily available. They don't have a marketing department to create content for them, so it is a great sales tool. When you download these system playlists, it basically downloads everything to your account. So it will download all the media, it will download the template, and then it will construct the playlist, the full playlist together inside your account. You can then go in, okay, it's just downloading that in the background, by the way, guys. You can then go in and it will appear in your playlists. If I double click on that, in the same way as I would be editing a playlist that I've created, you can go in and change pictures, change text, make any edits you want and then publish it in the same way. So if I just take that picture there, for example, I want to change that and just delete that picture. Okay, and then I want to put that one in instead, and then save and publish in the same way. So it's really straightforward. It's just like I say, it's a great sales tool more than anything else to actually give people that pre-designed content. The only other feature, like I said, I didn't cover is the touch side of things, because that's a little bit more in-depth and unrelated to most projects. I'll probably cover that in a separate webinar. Yeah, I won't go into that on this one. But again, guys, if you think it's worth it, please email me, and we can cover that separately. Okay, let me just go back to see if anyone's got any questions so far. Okay, Zach, are these blank, or can we use the content we see? In terms of content, again, if you get in touch with me directly, guys, I should be able to, if you need any demo content or anything like that, I should be able to send you something over, definitely. Okay, so guys, are there any other questions at this stage? So far, there doesn't seem to be too many questions coming through. I assume that means everything's been understood and I've explained everything. Okay, brilliant. Okay, how does the web page look for social feeds? That's a good question, Kirsten. Specifically Instagram. Okay, Instagram isn't one that we deal with on a regular basis, but essentially the principle will be the same. So if I go back to screen sharing for just 1 second. If I open up my Signage Portal again, if I go to support, like I say, typically there's an FAQ for pretty much everything. If I choose the one that says, how do I display my Twitter or Facebook profile? Now, obviously, this is just covering Twitter and Facebook, but obviously Instagram, it would be the same principle. So this shows you how to set up the web zone, and then copying the URL from the Twitter page, pasting it into the web zone on your playlist, and then that's how it'll appear on screen. So again, same process for Facebook, but that's how it'll appear on screen. Now, to be honest, guys, with social media feeds, obviously this is the easy way of doing it, and this method takes a few seconds. If you want it to appear any differently, you can, but you'd have to basically set up a web and create a Twitter widget within the web page. So, for example, if I go to our website, and if I go to our blog page, you'll see that just on the right hand side we've got our own little Twitter widget that we've set up in the way that we want it to appear. Now, you could do the same thing but on a web page on its own, and essentially get any social media feed to appear in any way. Kirsten, the best thing to do is if you drop me an email, I can look into Instagram specifically and see if I can figure out a particular solution for that platform. So if you drop me an email, I'll try and put a guide together for you on how to display specifically Instagram. Okay, Matt's got a question. How do I set 3 screens as a shared image like the ones at Allsee? Okay, so I believe what you're talking about there is the screen synchronization. So with your screen synchronization, again, I just want to go back to the screen sharing. So again, with this, there's a video tutorial for it. To understand the principle in general, I'd recommend watching the synchronizing multiple screens video. This shows you how to set up the synchronization on the screens. It also shows you how to set it up on the back end as well. I think specifically what Matt's talking about is something like this, where you've got a single image across multiple screens. The way that you would achieve that is you'd create the content as one big image or video, and then you would cut or crop the display areas for each of the screens out of that image or video. When you publish those to the screens and they're synchronized, they then appear as one big video. Hope that makes sense. As well as that, obviously, you can have mix between that and, the same thing displaying on each screen, or similar things displaying on each screen that just change at the same time, like that one there. But if you were to watch that video, you'd probably understand, everything you need to understand about it. And then again, if you've got any sort of follow-up questions after that, give me a shout and I can try and help a bit further. Perfect. Mark, can you connect to APIs? At the moment, no. Our current system doesn't allow for that. I believe we are looking into the possibility on a future version. I believe we are currently working on a user interface update as well. I'm not sure when that will be ready just yet, but I think that's one of the things that's being considered, is the APIs. Okay. Okay, Chris, anything you need to know on touchscreen? So, like I say, the touchscreen side of things is a little bit more in depth. Because there's not that many questions. What I can do, I can actually give you a quick overview of the touch if you like. So if I just go back to screen sharing here. So just back into the software itself. If I go to touch, again, just to give you a little bit of background on the touch side of things. In the same way we created the CMS to be a user-friendly, cost-effective, all-in-one solution, we took the same approach to the touch side of things. With a lot of the projects, the touchscreen projects we were getting involved with, again, the content creation side of things is very expensive, very complicated, or we would just recommend customers to, create a separate website or a web page. That was the most cost-effective way of creating interactive content. With our Touch CMS, we wanted to create a solution where, even if a customer just had 5 images, they can create interactive content for themselves. So that's what we tried to achieve. Again, user-friendly, cost-effective, and all-in-one. So if I click on New, so again, the first thing you need to do is give your touch playlist a name and choose the resolution. And then again, in a similar way to the non-touch side of things, you'll see that you've got some tools on the left-hand side here. The only real difference is you've got pages as well. So if I start by creating a new page, here you'll see there's page 2 and page 3. The page 2's got a little star over it, which means it's the home page. So if I go back to page 2, you can then insert buttons. So the button itself can be an image. So if I just use that image there, or if it's more convenient, you can create the whole touch playlist interface as a flat image and then place transparent button zones over the top of that. Once you've got a button, you can then set it with an action. So the default one is jump to page. You've also got run app. So if you wanted to run a third-party app, you can jump to a different touch playlist. You can add it as a play button for a video in a video zone, or you can set it to open up a web page. So with this one, if I just set it to jump to a page and select page 3, which is the other one, okay. Then if I go to page 3 and set a background image here of the car, okay. And then if I save that, obviously you can do a preview. So if I click preview, and then if I touch that button here, it then takes me to that page. So it's basically a way of creating almost a very simple website, but you don't need to know about coding or anything like that. Anybody can put it together. And again, going on about the video tutorials again, there's a specific video tutorial for creating a touch playlist. That one's a little bit longer than most. Most of them are, 1 or 2 minutes long. This one's about 15 minutes long because it goes through the whole process and shows you all the different tools you can use. But essentially, that's it. Again, you can have groups of buttons, you can have video zones, image zones, scrolling text, weather, or incorporating web pages. So most things you can do, with the non-touch side of things, you can do on the touch playlist as well. What a lot of customers do, they'll have they'll do some of it in the Touch CMS, and then they'll do some of it as a web page. So, for example, if they had like a a form, like a data entry or data capture form, you can incorporate that as as a web page as part of your playlist. So that, again, that's a really handy tool. Or if you've got any sort of live information or live rotors or anything like that, you can do that. Or if if you're using it for shopping, or in a retail space, and someone's got their own e-commerce website already, again, you can just point that web zone to the existing e-commerce website and do it that way. Or again, if they've got their own app, you can incorporate third-party apps in there as well. So that's a quick run through on the Touch side of things. I hope that was enough in depth. Like I say, you've also got the video tutorial on the portal. And if you need any sort of specific guidance, again, just get in touch with me directly, and I can give you a run through on that. Okay, Chris, brilliant. Jerry is asking if you can get a recording of this, and Nazir is saying that it was a little bit late. So just to let you guys know, the full webinar will be available to watch on YouTube, and I'll be sending out an email to all you guys with that YouTube link. Hopefully in the next few days, but it will be available. And again, if you've got any sort of follow-up questions, you can just email me direct. So Peter's asking, are you developing any other widgets? Again, with the new user interface update, I think that might be something we are looking into. At the moment, with regards to sort of widgets, if you like, most things can be achieved through the web zone. But if you've got any specific requirements, let me know, and I can sort of look into them on a case-by-case basis. So again, for example, lots of estate agents use the web zone to display their third-party software. The third-party software can generate a live URL that manages all their properties for them. They can then just put that URL into the web zone, and the screen essentially manages it itself, because obviously it's just displaying that live web feed. If you've got any specific requirements, Peter or anybody else, let me know, and I can always sort of look into things on a case-by-case basis. Mark Greenway's asking, can the software be purchased on its own? So the only way, so if you've got any existing screens that need to be, you need to use the My Signage Portal software, you'd like to use the My Signage Portal CMS to control them, a media player would have to be purchased. Again, we've designed the software to be used with our hardware. Basically, we're not a software development company, but we have obviously developed the software, and we understand that for some projects there are going to be existing screens, which is why we have media players. The media player can obviously attach to an existing screen, and then most functions can be achieved just like any other screen at one of our all-in-one screens. When I say most functions, I mean if the screen that it's being connected to just hangs on the no signal message, for example, and the media player's due to power off and it powers off, you'll just get the no signal message on screen, for example. Whereas obviously if it was one of the all-in-one screens, it's designed to power off at the same time. So the all-in-one screens are obviously a more sort of incorporated solution, but the media players are great if, like I say, if there's a project and there are existing screens, they might want to buy say 5 new all-in-one screens, but they've got 20 existing screens that they need to convert. So the only way of using our software on other screens would be to use a media player. So it looks like I've answered that question, Mark. Anna is asking about explaining about the synchronization. Okay, Anna. So basically, if I just go back to my Signage Portal. Okay. So Anna, the way that the synchronization works is, in this setup here, for example, you've got 4 screens. So one is set up as a master, as a host screen, and then the other screens are set up as slave screens. So if I just show you what that looks like. So one screen is set up as a host, and the rest are set as slaves. Now, basically all those screens just need to be connected to the same network. What happens is each time that host screen starts its playlist, it sends a command to the other screens to start at the same time. So everything stays in sync. So whether it's displaying the same thing on each screen or a part of a larger video or image that's been chopped up, they'll stay in sync. So it's a really good solution for keeping things synchronized in that respect. Does that explain it well enough, Anna, or do you need me to go into any more detail? Okay, I'll take that as a yes for now. Oh, brilliant. Okay, Anna. If you need, again, on a case-by-case basis, if you need any specific information or you need me to talk you through something over the phone, again, just get in touch and I can do that. That's not a problem. Frederick is asking if the software can be translated. At present, the answer is no. Currently we only have the English version. Again, I believe that request is on the roadmap, but it's not something that's going to be imminent. So that development likely will happen later on down the line, but not anytime soon, not in the next few months. So at the moment, it's an English-only platform. Matt's asking, can the screens be set at Allsee before delivery to the so the synchronization, can that be set here? The answer is yes. I mean, basically anything that you guys need us to do before the screens are dispatched, we can do. Obviously, as most of you guys are aware, we're quite rigorous with our testing. Everything's tested when it comes in. Everything's tested and inspected again before it goes out. So when we're doing the final testing and checking before dispatch, if you guys need us to do something specific, set it in a particular orientation or something like that, just let your account manager know and we can do that. That's not a problem. Frederick's asking, when is the release of the new interface? So we don't have an exact time frame yet. It should be ready around the first quarter of next year, but that's nothing's sort of set in stone at the moment. We're still in the development stages. We've only really just got to the stage where we've everybody's agreed on the design, the look, if you like. So there's still a lot of features that need to be developed before we can release it to market. And we don't typically release anything until it's fully tested and market ready. No problem, Frederick. You're more than welcome. Have we got any other questions from anybody at this stage? Okay, Stacey's asking, are there preloaded vids on the screen, as I've had customers ring advising they can see a JML video? Okay, what you're probably talking about there is the touch screens. So what we tend to do is, obviously we have to load some demo content before the screens go out so the customer knows that everything's working, and obviously so we can test it here. With regards to like non-touch screens, for example, we load some product slides of our product so that a customer might see that and think, oh, okay, we can use a different product. With the touch screens, what we tend to do is, you are right, one of the, I think landscape and portrait both have like their own touch playlist for a particular product, and I think they are both JML products. But it's just the demo content, basically. It's just so that when the customer takes it out of the box, they can start using it and start testing it straight away before they've learned how to use the software. They can actually test the screen themselves. Otherwise, the first thing they need to do is learn the software. And sometimes, if I'm honest, guys, screens can sit in boxes for months and months before anyone's even looked at the software. So it's just so that something's on there preloaded so that the customer can test. Anna, you're saying there are a few seconds of error between the screens when they are published. How can we fix this? Is that in relation to the synchronization? Because if that's about synchronization, basically what we recommend is if you are synchronizing screens, yes, okay, we would recommend doing it over LAN, so doing it using an Ethernet cable rather than Wi-Fi. Basically, as I was explaining earlier, when that host screen sends a command to the other screens, if that command's being sent over Wi-Fi, it's going to be a little bit, there's going to be a little bit more of a delay. If it's being sent hardwired over an Ethernet cable, it's going to be almost instantaneous. So the Wi-Fi, is not a preferred method if you're, synchronizing screens. For that matter, where possible, we always recommend using Ethernet connection, because obviously, again, it's more stable, it's more consistent, it's not going to be dropping in and out like Wi-Fi would, especially, like say, if you're displaying a live web page or an important RSS feed that gets updated regularly, or you're synchronizing screens. I would strongly advise using a hardwired Ethernet connection rather than Wi-Fi. I hope that makes sense, Anna. Brilliant. Okay, perfect. Harry is asking, with the social media pages, can a Twitter tape be set up? Okay, that's a good question, Harry. A few years ago, Twitter had a feature where you could convert a feed into an RSS feed. They've got rid of that feature now, but there are third-party solutions on the market that allow you to do that. We know of a free one, Harry, that if you send me an email, Harry, I can send you that guide over. It is free, but it brands it with the name of the company, that manage it. I'm sure there are paid for solutions that allow you to convert a Twitter feed into an RSS feed on the market. So it'd be a case of finding one of those, really. But we can provide a free one, but it's sort of branded, if you like. Okay, perfect, brilliant. Justin is asking, can other software be installed on the player hardware so we could download data using our protocol and convert this to an RSS feed locally? No. So if you're using the CMS, everything, including like web pages, for example, you couldn't display a local web page because everything has to go through the server. Everything has to go through the software server. In some ways, it's a security measure because obviously everything, if it's going through the server, obviously we can ensure the security, if you like, but you can't have like a local RSS feed in any way, I'm afraid, Justin. No problem. And what I'd probably suggest is if there was anything like that, again, it's a case by case thing, really, if I'm honest, Justin. But if you can either have a manually inputted message on the scrolling text field, or if you wanted to set up like an actual live web page that had scrolling text, you can do that. Again, depending on what the specific requirements are of any particular project, if you'd let us know, we might have either come across it before, or we can do our own research this side and try and figure out the best solution for you. No problem, Justine. Okay, guys, are there any other questions at this stage about the CMS, or demonstrating the CMS, or the hardware, or software, or anything at all? Okay, Gary. Oh, Stacey, can you plug headphones into the screens? Okay, so again, that's a good question. With the non-touch screens, they don't come with an audio out as standard or a headphone jack as standard. A modification can be made to the non-touch screens. However, that being said, with the touch screens, because they're used in a more sort of interactive environment, such as museums and so forth, there is an audio out on the touch screens. Best thing to do, Stacey, if you have a chat with your account manager, or if you're not sure, just again email myself at support@allsee-tech.com, and I can advise you further on that. But as standard, the touch screens come with the audio out, but the non-touch don't. Gary, no problem at all, Stacey. You're more than welcome. Gary, if we can get a copy of this, then I can work at my own and understand it better. No problem, Gary. I'll make sure you get an email with the YouTube link for this video. And then if you need any support on any particular parts, I'm more than happy to do that. And we can sort of, hone in on anything you're unsure about then. Nazir, can you please give me about the cost? Right, okay. Nazir, the best thing to do is, if you're unsure about who your account manager is, if you send me an email, I'll make sure that I'll pass you on to the right person, and then they can advise on cost and anything commercial. Our clients generally ask for a menu to display food prices. Yeah, Nazir, we've got lots of different menu board options. It's one of the biggest markets, I think, for digital signage at the moment is still, digital menu boards, and we've got lots of different options for those, depending on your requirements and budget and so forth. So again, if you drop me an email, if you've got an existing account manager, I'll pass you on. If not, we'll assign one to you. That's not a problem. Matt, when you say it works better hardwired for sync, do you mean the computer we are sending it from, or each screen? So the screens themselves. So as long as all the screens are connected to the same router, or even if they're just connected to the same switch via Ethernet cable, that will help with the synchronization. Because obviously, like I say, when the host sends the command to synchronize with the slave screens, if that command can be sent through, obviously, a wire, then obviously it's going to be much quicker, so synchronization is going to be more accurate. Anna, on the template creation, how do we align without error, being well aligned? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, if I quickly show you, so if I go back into the template section, I'll just create a new one. Okay. So I've got two zones here. I'll just make them a little bit bigger. If you want those to be aligned, the easiest way to do it is with the different zones here, with the different parameters. So here you can see, on the y-axis, this has got 87. So if I give this one 87 as well, you'll see those two zones are now perfectly aligned at the top. So obviously you could do that for any other values really. If you want to line anything up or make anything the same size, or if you want to be really accurate with your your media zones, you can do that. Okay, Stacey, are you able to connect a payment card reader to the screens like the ones you see in McDonald's? So for this, to be honest, Stacey, it would depend. Again, it would be a case-by-case thing. It would more than likely be a bespoke product that would need to be manufactured. And we have done similar project in the past. Again, approaching it in lots of different ways. So again, Stacey, with that specific question, I would recommend having a chat with your account manager. And getting some advice from them, because again, as standard, it's not really like the card machine readers. The card readers, that they're not typically they're not plug and play devices. They're not USB connection and then that's it. There's usually a lot more to it than that. So if you've got any sort of specific projects or specific requirements, get in touch with your account manager or myself, and we can advise further on that. Thomas Green, does the software accept all types of files, i.e. For film and stills? Good question, Thomas. So if I go back to the portal, if I go back to support and then FAQ, there's actually a list of supported media formats. Wrong one, sorry. So what are the recommended supported media formats for my screen or player? So this gives you a full list of all the formats that are supported. So the codecs that should be used with videos, you know, the containers for images, and it also mentions obviously about Office documents in there as well. So that should have all the information you need, to be honest, Thomas. If you've got any sort of specific files that you can't convert for whatever reason, we're more than happy to try and help you convert those. That's not a problem at all. Thank you, Rob. I'm glad you found it useful. Are there any other questions at this stage? Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes because obviously we have actually gone over time. But if there are any other questions, feel free to ask them. I'll still be going for another couple of minutes. But if you've got any sort of longer term questions, once you've sort of, you know, played around with the software, you know, your customers had a look at the software or whatever, you're always welcome to email me. And I'm more than happy to help anytime. Obviously, I've got myself, I've got a support team behind me as well. And yeah, we're always more than happy to help. So even if you can't think of anything now, don't worry. Even if you watch the webinar again and you've got lots of questions, feel free to just email me over a list of questions and we can, you know, deal with them all individually. You're all more than welcome, guys. Thank you for the appreciation. Thanks to all you guys as well, because you know you've obviously taken a lot of interest. So thanks for your time as well. I know how valuable it is. Okay, guys. So like I say, I'll hang around a little while longer. If you do have any other questions, feel free to type them in on the chat box. Otherwise, obviously the support email address is on screen now. If you've got any questions at all or you need any help at all, just you know, email that across to us, and either myself or one of my colleagues will come back to you as soon as possible.